A woman receives a message about one of her closest friends. At work, the friend has taken credit for another person's idea. When confronted, she dismissed the colleague as jealous and difficult. The woman starts forming an answer. Her friend has been under pressure. The office is competitive. Perhaps the colleague misunderstood. Then she pauses. If someone she disliked had done exactly the same thing, would she search this hard for an excuse? Loyalty can be a virtue when it asks us to stand beside someone at a cost. But something changes when it means changing the rules for that person. When does loyalty stop being a virtue and become a double standard? The problem is not caring more deeply about some people. A close friend is not emotionally interchangeable with a stranger. The danger begins when closeness changes our judgment of harm in practice. A cruel remark becomes understandable when our friend says it. Dishonesty becomes strategy when it benefits our group. Conduct we condemn in an opponent becomes complicated when it comes from our side. This pattern can begin in friendship, then spread through families, factions, and nations. Loyalty can inspire courage and sacrifice. It can also create moral exemptions, as though ours changes what an action does to its victim. Mozi made this problem central to his philosophy. Mozi probably lived during the 5th century BCE, in the early Warring States era. Little about his life is certain. The book bearing his name contains material associated with him and later followers called Mohists. The Mohists formed an organized movement that advised rulers and sometimes helped smaller states prepare against attack. One of their central ideas was Jian. It has often been translated as universal love, but impartial care or inclusive care may be clearer. The point was not identical affection for every person. Scholars disagree about how demanding the doctrine was, but its essential challenge is clear. The welfare of people outside your circle still counts. For the Mohists, disorder grew when people benefited their families or states by harming others. A ruler demanded loyalty at home, yet treated losses across a border as less important. Mozi asked what would happen if moral concern did not stop at the boundary of the group. In a chapter condemning aggressive warfare, the Mozi builds an argument by changing the scale. If a person steals fruit, people recognize the wrong. If he takes animals or property of greater value, the harm is larger and the offense more serious. If he kills an innocent person, the condemnation is greater still. But when a ruler attacks another state, kills many people, and takes far more, the same observers may celebrate him. The size of the harm increases, while the moral judgment reverses. The argument is blunt. A uniform, a banner, and a claim of glory cannot transform injury into justice. Would we accept our side's reasoning from an enemy? Mozi's answer was not confined to theory. One account in the Mozi turns the argument into a confrontation. According to the story, powerful Chu planned to attack smaller Song. The engineer Gongshu Ban had built cloud ladders to cross its walls. When Mozi heard, he set out for the Chu capital. The text says he traveled for 10 days and 10 nights. He approached Gongshu Ban with a strange request. Someone had offended him, and he wanted the engineer's help killing that person. Gongshu Ban refused. His principles did not permit murder. Mozi revealed the trap. If killing one person violated Gongshu Ban's principles, how could he help invade an innocent state and kill many? Refusing the smaller crime while preparing the larger one applied two different standards. Gongshu Ban conceded the argument, but the machinery had been promised to the ruler of Chu. Mozi was taken to the ruler. There, he offered another comparison. Imagine a wealthy person abandoning his fine carriage to steal a neighbor's broken cart. Chu already possessed far more than Song. Why attack a poorer neighbor for what Chu did not need? The ruler recognized the logic, but the siege equipment had been built, and Chu expected it to succeed. So the discussion became a demonstration. Mozi arranged his belt as the walls of a model city. Small pieces represented defensive equipment. 9 times Gongshu Ban changed his attack. 9 times Mozi stopped him. The engineer exhausted his methods, while Mozi still had defenses. Philosophy had become a practical test. Could choose machinery overcome Mohist preparation? Then Gongshu Ban hinted that he knew one remaining way to defeat Mozi. Mozi understood. Kill him, and perhaps Song would lose its defense. But Mozi told the ruler that 300 followers were already prepared on Song's walls. Killing him would not remove the resistance. At that point, the ruler abandoned the attack. The details cannot be independently established, but the story shows the Mohist principle in action. Oppose aggression, help its intended victims defend themselves, and place argument before force. The woman still cares about her friend. Mozi does not require her to erase that attachment, but the colleague's loss remains real. Loyalty can mean listening, staying present during consequences, and helping repair damage. It need not mean inventing innocence. The discipline becomes harder as groups grow. We know our intentions, but see only an opponent's actions. Under those conditions, partiality can feel like realism. Mozi offers an uncomfortable test. Reverse the positions. If the justification sounds corrupt in the mouth of an opponent, loyalty does not cleanse it when it comes from us. Mozi's challenge is precise. Caring more for our own people is not the problem. The double standard begins when loyalty asks us to ignore their wrongdoing or abandon a principle we would enforce against anyone else. True loyalty does not look away. It recognizes the harm, applies the same moral standard, and remains present while a friend, a group, or a country faces what it has done. The real test of loyalty is not how readily we excuse our own side. It is whether we care enough to tell them when they are wrong.